Early reviews suggest that Sam Mendes' 1917 could be a surprise Oscar front-runner. That is the headline on today's MBE Movie News. And welcome to today's MBE Movie News. I am of course John, and I'm going to be discussing a wide array of very interesting topics, but first and foremost we're going to dive right into this Sam Mendes 1917 Oscar-worthy topic. It's coming off of the back of the very first run of screeners. I think the critics have got a chance to finally see the movie, and they are absolutely loving this movie, which is no surprise to me, as it shouldn't be to anyone really. If you have seen the trailers for this movie, then you will know what you are going to be experiencing when you finally, the mere plebeians like us, finally get a chance to go in and consume this great product that Sam has gave us. Sam's just a wonderful director, let's be honest. He's been involved in an array of magnificent movies throughout his career, and he's really aligned himself with an absolutely tremendously talented cast. The likes of Roger Deakins, the god of cinematography, is in there. By all accounts, some of these early reviews suggest he could be on course to get his second Oscar win. And then you have Thomas Newman in there as well. Anyone who's a fan of movies will know who Thomas Newman is. He has worked in so many great movies, from the likes of Shawshank Redemption all the way down to a closet favourite of mine, that is Meet Joe Black, Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt. Wonderful music in that movie, really transcends it to something it really shouldn't be. But look, you go in and you look at some of these early reviews, the likes of Clayton Davis is in there, and he is suggesting that it's your front runner. It's the best war movie he's seen since Saving Private Ryan. The cinematography of the year, the cinematography of the decade. Thomas Newman's orchestral masterpiece, Sam Mendes' gift to cinema and family. Every ounce is powerful. Now, I did allude to it, that Roger Deakins could be on to get his second Oscar nomination and win. And again, it doesn't surprise me. Me and Stephen have spoken about this movie, I want to say about a month back or so, when we had the bombshell that this movie was going to be a one-shot, or made to look like it is a one-shot movie. It's going to focus deeply on, also I want to say it's Dean Chapman, that is the chap's name, and also George Mackay, their journey across the trenches and behind enemy lines in World War I, trying to find the 2nd Battalion, a platoon, and warn them that they are running into a trap and stopping a massacre. Essentially, it was focusing on these two guys, their journey across the World War II landscape, World War I landscape I should say, in France I presume it will be, and it's such a unique concept. He has dabbled with it before, but to see this done for the entirety of a movie in the magnificent setting of World War I, a setting that never gets enough love from me. We've seen so many great World War II movies in a variety of different manners, introspective ones like Downfall to the big bombastic ones like Saving Private Ryan, and for it to finally have some light shone on it this great period, World War I, is a big plus for me. But to do it with a one-shot setting, it's going to be magnificent on the eyes, and by all accounts it is. I did allude to Thomas Newman. I got it from the trailer. Stephen even mentioned it when we reacted to, I say it was the first official trailer, that the music was giving them goosebumps. So it doesn't surprise me. We've got Scott Feinberg in there. He says Mendes' excellent 1917 joins the race. Almost unfathomable that cinematographer Deakins and production designer Gassner don't win second Oscars, and composer Newman doesn't win Oscar number 1. He's never won an Oscar, Thomas Newman. It's disgraceful. And then he goes on to say, pick director, original screenplay noms almost certain, wins possible, acting noms possible. George Mackay, I've been trumpeting this guy from the get-go, from the very moment I seen him pop up on my screen. I think he's just a magnificent young actor. I keep saying magnificent, but there's no other adjective to describe this young guy and what he brings to every performance. And then you have got the other young chap whose name always eludes me. I want to say it's Chapman. He is a really good, talented young guy as well. You've got the likes of Cumberbatch in there. You've got Mark Strong. Such an impressive cast. And yeah, the production design does look really impressive as well. They've managed to capture the horrors of No Man's Land, the claustrophobic settings of these trenches, and it just looks like a wonderfully crafted period piece that's really getting to the heart of what the time was like, what it was like for these ordinary young guys being thrust into a war that they didn't want, but they felt it was the right, just and obedient thing to perhaps do. I'll go through a few more. Edgar Wright's in there as well, obviously the fantastic director of the Cornetto trilogy and Baby Driver and whatnot. He says it's a thrilling, immersive, emotional journey into the heart of war. It's exceptional on a technical level, yet frequently stunning in its simplicity. Sam Mendes and director of photography Roger Deakins, along with their crew, created a hypnotic cinema experience that is both riveting and moving, which is what you need for a war movie. You need it to be riveting, simplistic, but also grandiose in its scale. But to get into the heart of this personal story, we've seen it done in I want to say it was a made-up fictional story in Saving Private Ryan, I can't speak, where we had the grandiose settings of these big operations and battles, but then we also had the introspective look at this guy, try to find him before he was killed. He obviously lost his two brothers, so nice to see they're doing this here as well, and they're doing it very, very well. I'm so excited for this movie. I don't want to keep getting on about it. They just keep gushing in their praise for this movie. It's technical mastery. It's a technical achievement of 2019. You follow these guys through every footstep. I even watched Jeremy Jan's review, and he was the same. He says it was a unique war movie, one of the most unique ones he's ever seen, and that you connect wholly with these guys' journey, so much so that even when they're sleeping or there's a little bit of downtime, you're like the eyes watching out. You feel that closely connected to the story that you feel like you're there, going through every step with them. So I'm so excited for this movie. I cannot wait to see it. January can't come quick enough. Really enjoyed the trailers, really enjoyed the one-shot style of filming, and I cannot wait. I'm a big World War II and World War One fan. I'm just absolutely obsessed with it. So look, I can't wait, and I'm going to move on though, because I've not much more to say, to the next topic, which is a very different topic, which is cutting to the heart of perhaps a societal issue, more so than just a solely Hollywood issue, and it's all about James McAvoy revealing that he's lost numerous roles because he is too short. He says it was a kick in the nuts in summary, but he says, as a shorter man, I sometimes get told I'm too short for a role, or even when I get a role, I'm made to feel like, well, of course, we're going to have to do something with that. He goes on to further say that he starred with an actress in a role who commented that it was an interesting choice because no one would usually believe that she would go with a guy like that, alluding to his height. And yeah, he just goes on and obviously discussing that he's lost out in numerous roles because of his supposed shorter stature. He's only 5'7". It's not that small. I'm not much taller than him, but I'm taller than him. It's a shame to see this has come out, that he feels the need to come out and even speak about this. This shouldn't be a thing. I'm firmly against all forms of discrimination. It's the 21st century, it's 2019. It shouldn't be happening. Whether it be fattest, heightist, racism, anti-Semitism, it doesn't matter what it is. We're all humans and we should all be accepting of each other. You can't change your height. It's something that you're stuck with. And it should really come down to the man's sheer acting ability, and I think he's proven, at least over in the last 5, 6, 7 years at least, but I would go back further. I recall seeing him in Band of Brothers, and even then he had something tangible. But he's proven that he's a wildly talented guy, so much so that in Split, I mean, you could have been 5, 6, 7 different actors at any one given time. Such was the amazing way that he got into these different personas' skins. So he's an incredibly talented chap, and I just find it so disappointing that he's had to put up with this nonsense. And it just again shows you the sheer determination of willpower that he's got, that he goes in and just does it no matter what. He brings his A game and he gets plaudits 9 times out of 10. And you look at the various other people. I've actually brought up an interesting article, The Shortest Men in Hollywood. Humphrey Bogart, one of the most lauded actors of his generation. You've got the likes of Tom Cruise in there. Jack Black, on a more comedic level, is a fantastic actor. Dave Franco, another great actor. Jonah Hill, it's decent. Tom Cruise is obviously the obvious one. He's only 5'7" as well, and he's transcended. He's become a sort of demigod of the acting world. He's a leading man. He's forced himself into that category, despite not being the traditional leading man, which is what McAvoy alludes to as well. And he's a pasty white Scotsman, 5'7", so not the traditional Brad Pitt leading man figure. But look, I think it just shows you that how driven these guys are, how talented they are, and how we should be giving them more respect and more praise, if you like, for what they're having to put up with in Hollywood. There's been a lot of nonsense and things coming up about all of these crazy, sort of creepy loon balls hanging around the female contingency in Hollywood, and obviously sexually harassing them and whatnot, the likes of the Harvey Weinsteins. And the Me Too movement springs up, but I don't think there's enough done to highlight the issue of heightism. Tom Cruise has been the butt of so many jokes over the years, and it's wrong. The guy can't change his height, and he's a magnificent actor. Then you go into Al Pacino, who's only about 5'5", 5'6", Joe Pesci. Even Bob De Niro was only 5'8", 5'9". These are not tall guys, but they're so talented that they have managed to shuck that tag of being too short for leading man roles. All in all, though, I think it's really disappointing, but it's also positive that James has come out and spoke about this, because it's something that needs to be highlighted. Discrimination in all its various facets has to be routed out of all forms of society, not just Hollywood. But look, guys, I'm going to move on. I've said my bit on it. I've not got much more to say. To a topic which kind of interconnects, and it shows you the progression that we're making in Hollywood and in the wider world. It's all about Michael B. Jordan going to Warner Brothers, and he's discussed a black Superman pitch. He says that, I don't know if he actually speaks on it, but he said, yeah, he did. He says to Oprah Winfrey, "It's tough. I hate being a businessman and understanding both sides of the situation. There is a huge upside to it, but being under that microscope, being picked apart and compared to so many different versions of Superman, I would rather do something original. I will be Calvin Ellis," and obviously Calvin Ellis is the 2009 alternate Superman who was, I think he was the President of the United States in his timeline, but he also, it was an alias, he was Superman, and he came from a different part of Krypton, and I think he was loosely or completely based on obviously Barack Obama. So it's very cool to see that as a society, hopefully we've progressed enough that we would be accepting of this being a thing. I personally would love to see Michael B. Jordan stepping into the role of Superman. I think he's tailor-made for it. Physically, he can step into that cape and he would look tremendous. And on an emotive level, he's just a wonderful actor. He can portray all the different spectrum of the human emotional range. He's just a fantastic guy off the screen as well, really charismatic, driven, hard-working, some would say. And yeah, I think this is a great news. If Henry Cavill is indeed willing to stay on for maybe perhaps another few movies, they do allude to Michael being very busy over the next few years. Perhaps we can have the best of both worlds. I spoke about this with Stephen last week. The news that Henry Cavill hasn't given up the cape yet, that he still feels he's Superman. So I'd love to see him come in and do a couple of other Man of Steel movies, and then perhaps 3, 4, 5 years down the road we can have a Calvin Ellis, Michael B. Jordan Superman movie. I think it'd be wonderful. I've followed this guy for so many years in the likes of Fruitvale Station, obviously in Creed and Black Panther. I just think he's a wonderful actor. What he brings, he's probably one of the best in the game at the moment. And yeah, I'd love to see it. I don't know much about the Calvin Ellis character. I don't know what it brings. I'd imagine it'd be the same villains, the likes of Lex Luthor and whatnot. And it's something we've seen, obviously, with Spider-Man as well. We've seen Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. We're not shoehorned into the traditional white heroic figure. With Peter Parker, we've seen Miles Morales being brought out and changing up the genre, changing up the character. And people are very receptive of it, and I think that shows you that we are progressing as a society, finally, to being more accepting of people of colour and whatnot, and different takes on traditional characters. I thought Miles Morales was a wonderful Spider-Man. I thought this was perhaps Sony opening up the door for a black Spider-Man in the live action setting, but sadly I think that's now probably out the door with Tom Holland's fluidity and his deal with Disney and Sony. But it's nice to see DC and Warner Brothers are receptive to a Michael B. Jordan coming in. I think he's, without repeating myself time and again, the perfect choice outside of Henry Cavill to do a different take on Superman. We've got it with Robert Pattinson. We're changing perceptions on various different actors and characters and doing different things with them, and that's always exciting to mix it up a little bit. But look, I've not got much more to add on that story. I'm pretty much done on it. I'm on my own, so it's always difficult to speak at length about any one given subject. I like to keep it short and succinct, give my thoughts, and have more topics to speak about. I'm actually trying to look over there and see how long I've been speaking, because I have got a 30-minute recording limit on this camera, sadly, so I'm trying to whittle through 6 topics here in short order. And the next one is all about the rise of Skywalker, incidentally. It's not the Force Friday show, but I felt that I would give my thoughts on this. Anyway, it won't be the longest Star Wars movie after all. There was rumours, even full-on articles about 2-3 weeks back, maybe a month back, suggesting that this movie would be 2 hours and 35 minutes long. That would have made it the longest Star Wars movie by 5 minutes over The Last Jedi. Me and Stephen were absolutely delighted. I in particular was over the moon. I would have been happy to see a 3-hour Rise of Skywalker movie, because I feel like what they have to close in this movie, they need as much time as possible to give all of the characters a fitting conclusion, give the Skywalker saga a fitting end. But look, it's not to be. J.J. Abrams has done an interview. I can't actually find the quote, but he's come out and debunked it. He says that it's not true. It's more round about the 2 hours and 20 minute mark, give or take a few minutes. He's been a bit ambiguous with it. We don't have the final running time, and I think that's a good thing. You want to keep it kind of under wraps. We don't want to know how long's left in the movie. Then you have a big action set piece, and then you're wondering, looking at the clock, oh no, we've still got another 35 minutes to go. That's not the end. There's something else to come. I don't want to be doing that. I want to keep it relatively secret what the running time is, but I'm disappointed that it isn't going to be closer to that 3 hour mark, even 2.5 hour mark. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't think it's enough time to close the movies in a fitting manner. I don't think he's given himself enough scope to close off the arcs of Finn and Poe and Rey, and obviously give Leia a decent send off. He's bringing in a whole host of other characters, like so Lando is coming back, Billy D. Williams. We've got Richard E. Grant coming in. We've also got Kerry Russell coming in. She's playing Zori Bliss. We've got a whole host of new characters coming in, and then we've got and I don't want to say original, but the OG sequel trilogy characters still not fully fleshed out, still not having faced enough adversity for me, and not anywhere near close to having their arcs finished in a manner which would give me happiness at the end of this story. And I feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes is pushing it big time. There's going to be action set pieces in there. There's going to be so much story to find and finish, I should say. And then you're bringing in the Emperor as well, and it has to be explained. And it's like, I don't think he's giving himself enough scope. I really don't. I think it's a mistake. But time will tell on this one. We have had precedent in the past for George Lucas coming out, the creator himself, and saying that he would like to have less bulk, less filler in Star Wars movies, that his ultimate goal was always to get under the 2 hour mark for a Star Wars movie. He was never successful. Disney haven't been successful either. The shortest movie I think was A New Hope at, I want to say, just over 2 hours long, and many would argue that's the greatest of all time. Not me. The Empire Strikes Back is my all-time favourite. I don't know the running time, but it can't be much over 2 hours. So certainly there is scope there to make a wonderful movie which has real emotional punches in there, in and around the 2 hour mark. But that's okay if you have a coherent, free-arcing movie story, if you'd like, to fall back on, and it's been a good foundation. I just feel like with The Last Jedi, it was a bit of a disaster in terms of continuing the stories on, and that's left us in a corner. We're painted ourselves up, boxed ourselves into a corner, and we find ourselves in a situation where there's so much story still to conclude. But look, time will tell. I hope it's a success. I hope JJ has got the balance right with running time, keeping people infused, but gave us a fitting conclusion to all of these other characters, the OG characters that remain, like Lando, C-3PO, R2-D2, and obviously Leia herself. And we get a really good end to this Skywalker saga, because Star Wars feels good just now. I'm playing the Fallen Order game. I think it's wonderful. It's a beautifully crafted game, even though it is a mishmash of Assassin's Creed and Lord knows so many other different games. That's great. The Mandalorian is Star Wars storytelling at its very best. Simplistic, short in its running order, much like this, hopefully, and so much better than what we've got in terms of films overall from Disney. But look, I'm going to move on to the next topic. I'm looking over my show, over the camera there, and it's getting close to that 20-odd minute mark, which is ominous. The next topic, incidentally, is all about Beetlejuice 2. Is it officially dead? Well, Danny Elfman isn't quite sure. Danny Elfman, of course, being, I believe, the composer of the original Beetlejuice, one of the cult classics of the 1980s. I want to say 88. I was born in 89, a year after, but I've seen it numerous times. It's one of my personal favourite Tim Burton horror movies. I love Michael Keaton as well. Love that character. Full to the brim with dark comedy and just so much zany visual stuff going on. It was just a classic Burton movie. I would have loved to have seen a second Beetlejuice movie. Sadly it hasn't came. Michael Keaton's all for it. I don't know why it's not happened. Burton's off doing Dumbo remakes. What are you doing, Tim? Give us a Beetlejuice movie with Michael Keaton. But look, Danny Elfman was speaking to Lord knows who, and he says, no, oddly he has not mentioned it to me. A year ago I saw Michael Keaton and he mentioned, so we're doing Beetlejuice 2. And I said, well, you know more than I do. I've heard nothing about it since. He's then went on to say there's projects in development for quite a while, but he doesn't know where it lies in the process. So look, all in all, it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, which is a real shame. Apparently there was a Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii sequel, which was in the pipelines but ultimately failed. That would have been very interesting, seeing Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice character popping up in the more tropical setting of Hawaii. Personally, I would love to see it, as I did allude to. It's a cult classic, as I did say, one of my favourite Tim Burton movies. I just love the character, and I love that ending. I'd love to get some closure on whether Beetlejuice ever got his head back from that shrunken state into a more normal sized head. Obviously he jumped the line, and he was punished for it, so I'd love to get some closure on that matter alone. And look, I really have enjoyed this renaissance from Michael Keaton as well over the last 4 or 5 years. Also appearing in Spider-Man Homecoming as the villainous, I want to say, Vulture. He had so much charisma and so much brooding sort of uneasiness whenever he was on the screen. He was in The Founder, which was another cool little movie. I think it overlooked that McDonald's movie. And he's been in a whole host of other things recently. He was in Dumbo, incidentally. He did team up with Tim Burton again. So it's been a renaissance, not as much so as what we're seeing with Keanu Reeves, but he's come back and he showed. I'm saying renaissance, but I would argue he's never really been away. So perhaps I'm being harsh on Michael. But going all the way back to the Tim Burton 1989 Batman movie, I've been a big fan of this guy, and I want to see him getting back to an utterly iconic 80s character and seeing where it can happen. Although I would add with one caveat that I've said before, that some movies are a product of their time, of their era. We've seen it with Back to the Future and whatnot. We have seen it with Rocky to a lesser extent, and we've seen it obviously with what is the one that's going to completely out of my head, Terminator, which are movies very much of the late 80s, some cases 70s and early 90s, which were of our time. Would it transcend over to the 21st century, 2019, 2020, whenever it is made? I have my doubts that it would. Look at the way certain generations, mine, the millennials, and even younger, how they are reacting to Friends and whatnot. Would they react to this humour? Would they react to this setting? I don't think they would. I think it's a movie of its time. But as a purely personal matter for me, I would love to see it happen. Hopefully it does happen. Danny Elfman, get Tim Burton in a room with Michael Keaton and make this happen. But look guys, I'm going to move on to the final topic on today's show. I'm getting concerned I'm running out of time here. It will be short. I've not got much more to add to this topic either, but I thought that I'd speak about it anyway. I'm talking about personal heroes of mine in an acting sense, and it's all about Tom Hanks. He's spoke out on why he will never play a villain, and he says that I recognised in myself a long time ago that I don't instill fear in anybody. Now that's different than being nice, you know. I think I have a cache of mystery, but it's not one of malevolence. It's because I never get, in brackets, bad guys, because bad guys by and large require some degree of malevolence that I don't think I can fake. Let's not call this a dark side, but I realise, and I've used over and over again, the ability to seduce a room, seduce a group of people that started off when I was young as a self-defence mechanism, but then it turned into manipulation of a kind. He goes on to say that he has got that ability to seduce a room, that ability to hold in everyone's gaze. He can be manipulative at times in terms of characters, but he doesn't have that malevolence, although he can be mysterious, to really play a villain. And look, that's something I'd never want to see. I would never ever want to see Tom Hanks playing a villainous character. He's too wholesome. Look at this A Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood movie where he's playing the wholesome of wholesome figures. obviously whose name eludes me at the moment. He was an American figure, in fairness, in my defence, but he's almost like the opposite of Gary Oldman in the early stages of his career. He continuously played antagonists and villains. Sean Bean as well. Obviously different levels here. Tom's one of the all-time great actors. Sean Bean I love, but he's not at that level. But they played villains a lot in their early careers, and they were almost stereotyped and pigeonholed into that, whereas Tom has just been such a wholesome Mr. America, if you like, playing really wholesome, clean, good people. And I don't want to see that changing ever. Now, I spoke about my childhood, and I just grew up watching this guy, watching the likes of Castaway, Toy Story, Philadelphia, Big, Saving Private Ryan, Forrest Gump. The list is endless. He's played so many different types of characters, a whole array of different movies and whatnot. He can lend himself to everything, but not villainry, because he is not a villain. He's too wholesome, he's too good an actor for that. Stick to what you know best, Tom. Keep it coming at us, because I can just consume movies from you all day long. But sadly, guys, I can't consume this show all day long. I am running out of time. I think I'm at 27 minutes. Lord knows where it will end up after I've cut it. What the hell did you make of the array of topics I spoke about today? What do you make about this story that Sam Mendes' 1917 could be an Oscar frontrunner? Is this something that you want to see? Are you looking forward to it like me? Are you blown away by the one shot and the technical aspects of the movie? What do you make about height discrimination in Hollywood and James McAvoy coming out and highlighting it? What do you think about a black Superman? Do you think Michael B. Jordan, like me, is the perfect guy to take over from Henry Cavill, if indeed Henry Cavill is still doing it? And what did you make about the other topics I spoke about as well? If you have anything to say about anything, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And I'll be back again, if you do, for another episode of MBE Movie News and the Blog Rundown tomorrow.